Hello everyone, this is Kenta.M from Land Design. Today I pruned a pine tree, so I would like to introduce it to you. The pine tree I'm introducing today is a type of pine called Kuromatsu. In this video, I'm going to show you how to easily prune so that you only have to prune it once a year. Please refer to it if you like. So let's take a look. Start at the state before pruning. Here is what it looks like before pruning. Apparently this pine tree was maintained by a gardener twice a year, so that this time is the first prune in about 9 months. Before look at the pruning process, I'd like to explain how to do it. Roughly speaking, the pruning of a pine tree can be follows. While observing the overall balance, cultivate ideal branches, cut off unnecessary branches, and the finishing touch is to pluck off the old leaves. The overall balance will vary depending on the relationship with the garden and where it is planted, so this is the most important part, but it's a long and tedious story, so I won't explain in this time. But if you set a goal for overall balance, you will be able to have fun and look forward to growing your garden, and you will enjoy it even more. So please be sure to think about it before pruning. To prune the part of branches, thin out unnecessary branches as shown in the illustration, align the branch tips and pluck off any old leaves that have angle opened, and arrange the beautiful radiating branches and leaves in a regular pattern. In addition, if you prune once a year, it is important to cut back the amount of growth that occurred in the past year in areas where you want to maintain the size. I have created an illustration summarizing how to prune pine trees, and there is a link to it in the summary section if you want to use it as a reference. Now let's take a look at actual pruning work. I would like to prune it right away, but it is important to check the condition of the branches and leaves and then prune appropriately, so I would like to check it carefully first. Looking inside, the branches were in state elongated out and tangled from various places. I would like to trim this branch to tidy up, but since all the side shoots in front had already been cut off, shorten cut is not possible, and the only thing you can do is thin out in this case. For the reasons above, I don't think this branch will sprout in the future also. When pruning pine trees, the more branches you have in front, the more options and possibilities you have, so try not to remove them all. Regarding pruning the branches, if you remove the branches in front like before, they will have no choice but to grow forward. In addition, there are no dormant buds, so if you cut the branch in the middle, it will not sprout. So when you cut it like swap front and back branches. The longer you can extend the length of time between these branch replacements, the longer you can extend the pruning cycle. Even if it doesn't have any replaceable branches and sticks out from the outline, I think it doesn't really bother me from a distance. It may be distracting if you look closely, but the pine tree pruning is not designed to have a prominent outline, so if you look at it from a distance like this, it doesn't bother you. If there are any areas that still bother you, cut them back at the middle of the branch where there are leaves. Next, let's look at the tip part of the branches. When I looked at the tip of the branches, I noticed that many of them were cut left short along the way, and it seemed that the branches had often been shortened without swap replaced, resulting in there were thick branches close to the outline. When the branches become thicker like this, which tends to increase the amount and vigor of buds. In addition, if the branches are close to the outer contour, the crown is easily disturbed when the buds sprout, so it is easier to manage if you try to avoid creating such branches as much as possible. I would really like to cut off this branch, but I don't have a replacement branch now, so I'm going to leave this branch and prune it. In cases like this, replacement branches are bring up from below or in front, but in the case of this tree, it will take about 5 years for the replacement branches to grow and be able to replace the thicker branches. Like the one I explained earlier, the thick branches of this tree also have grown close to the outer contour, making them prone to disrupting the crown, so I would like to cut them back as close to the inside as possible. This video is about pruning pine trees. However, the condition of the branches and the vigor of each tree will vary, so when you pruning, do not just follow the methods in this video, but check the condition of the pine tree you are pruning and prune with the appropriate strength. All the branches are in the same condition, so the main pruning work this time will be to cut off the short remaining dead branches and tidy up the tangled branches. It's easy to see by comparing the upper and lower branches, but if many cut ends of the branches are visible, it gives a dirty impression and ruins the clean green and sharpness of the pine needles. So if you see them, try to cut them at the base. I recommend that you choose scissors and gloves that are easy for you to use, but as the branches mature, it will be easier to use smaller scissors, thin gloves, or bare hands. Here, I will explain tree vigor and the amount of branches and leaves to leave. This is true for all tree species, but overall the tree's vigor is stronger towards the top, and the branches tend to have stronger vigor at the tip, called the apical bud, and at branches pointing upward. Basically, we working think backwards from this characteristic. We make the number of branches and leaves fewer at the top and more lot at the bottom to prevent the overall balance from being lost. I would like to take a look at specific pruning on these branches. This branch looks like this. First, cut off unnecessary branches with scissors. Then, Pluck out the pine needles starting from the oldest ones at the bottom until they reach a beautiful angle. When removing the pine needles, it is easier to remove them by pulling them in the opposite direction to the pine needle's orientation. When you're pruning, let's start from the back or edge to avoid crushing the branches and needles in front with your arms. Please adjust the angle and amount of leaves while observing the number of twigs and the vigor of the tree. The design of the pine branches is meant to be regular and continuous, so to make it look beautiful, it is important to make the tips of the pine needles aligned. Now let's look at pruning. I pluck the leaves off to this extent. While you are still getting used to it, leave a lot of leaves and check whole from a distance from time to time to make adjustments. This time I didn't have any good video of the selection of branches, so I have prepared an illustration instead. Please refer to it if you like. I'd like to explain it here. These branches run sideways and interfering with the better quality branches growing from further back. If you leave the sideways branches, it will give malformation impression, so in this case, leave the good honest branches in the back. It would not be wrong to leave the red branch, but it would be a long story, so I will leave the green one this time. I was going to cut that earlier branch at this position, but there were not many branches around it, so I cut it one position further ahead. The branch line is unsightly, so in the future I plan to cut it back where I first cut it, but it is also important to think long term and make decisions when pruning, rather than cutting it right away. In this time, the pine branches are not yet neat and point in different directions, so even if you carefully remove the leaves, the branches will not be neat, so I roughly finished the leaves. There are some other maniac methods for aligning the branches and leaves, so if you're interested, be sure to look into them. But, as mentioned at the beginning, the branches are small details, so it will be more effective if you reconsider the overall balance and the position where you plant them. If you want to be particular, we recommend that you first reconsider the entire garden before making any fine pruning. For such consultations, it is best to consult a professional beyond the field of art. I've finished pruning, so I'm going to clean up now. This time we didn't do any protection, but cleaning up the pine needles is hard work, so please protect them with a sheet or something. After pruning, it looked like this. It looks much neater and different than before the pruning. There is a lot to say about pruning pine trees, so this video became so packed with content. Even if you don't understand the content of the video, you may understand it if you actually try pruning, so please try it and have fun without thinking too hard. There is a free document data that summarizes the video, so please download it from the link in the summary section if you would like. Finally, if you think the video is good, I would appreciate it if you could support me by subscribing to the channel or giving it a high rating.